Before you lay out your sink, you want to make sure everything is squared up to the countertop. After you do that, do your measurements. There is another way that you can do it without even having to use a tape measure. It takes a little practice, but it can be done. A little quicker method I learned is use a speed square and push it up against the anchor points once you've squared your sink to the counter. Then you can just extend the lines out and draw them onto your countertop like this. If you have a finished countertop, just use blue tape to draw on and still square it up to your counter. Using a hole saw as I am here leaves you room in the corner so your saw blade won't cut into the area of the countertop that's not covered by the sink rim. You can also use a jigsaw to do this. I prefer to use a circle saw. It's much quicker and I can get the job done more efficiently. You can see here at the end of the cut, my saw doesn't cut into the area of the countertop that's not going to be covered. Be sure you always use a circle saw or cut your corners out with a jigsaw to prevent damaging it. What I've done here is I've fastened 2x4 to the wasted part of the countertop. This allows me to run my saw down it without having to deal with the lip on the counter. If you don't do this, the possibility of having this fall through when you're cutting could damage your countertop that you're trying to build. You can see here that 2x4 held it in place and all I had to do is lift it off. No damage to my counter, and now I have the hole cut out. Next step is to set the sink in it to fit it. Okay, we've trial fit our sink to the hole. It all works. Squeeze your plumber's putty back and forth in your hands to warm it up. Then begin to roll it out with gentle pressure until you get it about the size of a pencil. Any smaller than that, you're not going to be doing yourself any justice and you'll end up having leaks, and which will end up eventually ruining the countertop because of the particle board. Roll it out to about the size of a pencil and then drop it in the little well that runs around the edge of the sink. Pushing it down occasionally will help it hold into place when you flip it over. The warmer the putty, the easier it works. This happens to be a cold day that I'm doing this, so the plumber's putty is a little bit on the tight side. Make sure that when you're applying your plumber's putty that you make sure that you extend it into all the corners out to the edge. If you don't have it all the way out to the edge, it's not going to seal, and as I said, the particle board will swell up, damaging the countertop and actually raising your sink off of the countertop. I'm going to do the faucet install at the same time I'm sticking this sink in. So what I'm going to do is roll out some plumber's putty and stick on the bottom of the faucet base. Even though the manufacturer recommends you don't use it, continually use plumber's putty. It's a better seal and it doesn't allow water to sit underneath of the faucet, creating an odor that later on you'll end up having to fix because the resident's complaining. So use the plumber's putty just to be on the safe side. It also keeps any water from leaking into the cabinet and damaging it. Last thing you want to do before you lock those down tight is to check to make sure that it's straight across this edge right here. There's a little bead or a raised spot that you want to make sure it sets on like that. Can you see that? And then you can tighten these plastic nuts down. Just like that. While you're at it, put your water supply lines on. Tighten these all the way up tight and then just give them a good quarter turn. That's all you need. That won't leak. If you look at the little white paper that's on here, it says turn them up tight and then 1/4 turn. That's all you need. Okay, now we're going to drop the faucet and the sink in all at the same time. Like that. Once you get the sink set in, you want to push it down a little bit to help squeeze out some of that plumber's putty. it's warm, this is really easy, but when it's cold like it is in here today, the plumber's putty doesn't really want to squeeze out. But you can get an idea what I'm talking about. You can see how the plumber's putty is squeezing out of there. Snap-on makes a real nice little tool. It's for adjusting carburetors. It's a socket with a screwdriver in it. There's two little index marks on the socket itself that tells you which way the blade is sitting inside that socket. Then all you have to do is line it up, put it in the screw, and tighten them up. Makes it much easier. The manufacturer gives you 12 anchors for a reason. They want them on there to hold the sink securely into place. It also helps squeeze out all this plumber's putty. Don't over tighten them because you'll actually end up damaging the rim of the sink. Only turn them up snug. Now that you have all the anchor points all pulled up snug, scrape out the excess plumber's putty that is squeezed out. As the room temperature changes and the continual pressure of those anchor clamps, putty will continually squeeze out until all the pressure has been relieved around it. So warn your residents this is going to happen. Once you've finished your install in the sink, take a spray cleaner and clean up your mess. You don't want the resident coming behind you and having to clean your messes up that you left for them. That's good resident retention. The resident should never ever have to clean up after a maintenance tech has gone in to do any kind of work. You can hang door hangers on the doors and put candy bars in their bags, but good resident retention is good quality maintenance done each and every time, so the resident knows nothing but that it's fixed the first time and every time. Thank you.